What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. We're here today to talk about the next round of Pathfinder 2nd Edition preview content. We have official details on everyone's favorite bomber slash mauler slash healer slash really whatever you want him to do, the Alchemist. I'm super stoked to learn more about this class because this class is one of my favorites. As Paizo points out later in the blog, which we'll talk about in a second, they're pretty iconic to Pathfinder. And I'm really glad, as I'm sure most of us out there as well are really glad, these guys made it to core class status. Before we get down to that though, this episode of your Pathfinder 2nd Edition preview content was brought to you in part by our newest patron, Mr. Chris Ward. Chris, thank you so much for your time and support. It means the whole world to me. Now let's get to it. Okay, so before we get down to business, real quick, the iconic alchemist from Pathfinder 1st Edition, Damiel Morgethai, will not be taking the journey with us into Pathfinder 2nd Edition, at least not as the iconic alchemist. So real fast, guys, moment of silence. We'll miss you, buddy. Now, on to the new stuff. So as I'm sure most of us know, in 1st edition, the Alchemist was the jack of all trades and the master of most. Pretty much right out the gate, you had the ability to throw something that would target touch armor class for damage that could turn into basically whatever you wanted, whatever elements, whatever sort of energy, even like here's some wisdom damage, as well as the ability to nuke your mental stats to raise your physical stats. Oh, also you're a spellcaster. The Alchemist, pretty much anything you want in 1st edition, even like down to the archetypes. If you want sneak attack, play a vivisectionist. If you want to turn into a monster, play a beast morph. To say nothing of the master chemist prestige class, which literally gives you a second personality. It's stuff like this that makes the Alchemist as iconic to Pathfinder in this one's humble opinion, and obviously the humble opinion of several others, which is why it's being carried over to 2nd edition. To quote Paizo, in the early days of Pathfinder 1st edition, the Alchemist saw release in the Pathfinder RPG Advanced Player's Guide. Since then, the Alchemist has proven to be very popular. Unsurprisingly, when we surveyed the player base about what classes see the most play, the Alchemist rose right to the top, along with the Oracle, but more on that in a later preview. Cleric stuff? Maybe? We'll have to see. That alone would have promoted the class into the Pathfinder playtest rulebook, but tackling the Alchemist early on was beneficial for another reason. It allowed us to take a hard look at alchemical item design with the Alchemist in mind rather than as a later add-on. So first things first, for those of us who might not have been keeping up so far, in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, the Alchemist will no longer be a spellcaster. No more extracts you can quickly chug down to have the effect of a spell. No more extracts you can pass out to your buddies to have them chug it down to have the effect of a spell. In place of that, we'll be creating alchemical formula, and leading the charge, the poster boy of the Alchemists for 2nd edition, is the iconic alchemist Fumbus, our first ever goblin iconic. Again, I've seen Damiel in a lot of art, in Pathfinder Adventure Paths, in various places online, and it's always felt pretty good to see that dude with the giant backpack lobbing bombs at people, but it feels even better to see a race that a lot of people love in Pathfinder, again, promoted to core race status, so I'm good with it. Again, quoting Paizo, while anyone trained in crafting can take the Alchemical Crafter skill feat and craft their own alchemical items, the Alchemist is much better at this crafting discipline, who'd have guessed it. At first level, he gains Alchemical Crafter and a formula book for free, along with 4 bonus alchemical item formulas for a total of 8, which include the 4 from Alchemical Crafter. Each time he levels up, he gains 2 more formula. This is on top of ones that he either discovers or invents, or think like how the Alchemist would add the formula to his formula book, how a wizard might put a scroll into their spell book in 1st edition, you get the idea. Not only does he gain more access to alchemical tricks by way of advanced alchemy and the quick alchemy action, but he can also spend resonance to create alchemical objects on the fly, though such hasty concoctions are potent for only a short period. So what that tells me is that any class in the game, our fighters, barbarians, wizards, oh my, can take the skill feat Alchemical Crafter if they're trained in crafting, and then find a formula book, spend some gold on a formula book, Suddenly everyone is an amateur alchemist, which is super sweet and super versatile, and in some cases might prevent an alchemist multi-class for a fighter or a barbarian who's trying to do the mutagen thing where you would drink a potion and then suddenly have fangs and claws and stuff like you would do in first edition. So on the subject of alchemical items, we've all known that there's plenty of them out there that in low to mid-ish level play, players like to get their hands on. Think Thunderstones, Alchemist's Fire. In Pathfinder 2nd edition, the Alchemist Bombs are now the basic alchemical items you're familiar with. The Alchemist is making Alchemist Fire to use a bomb. The Alchemist is making acid flasks. I imagine it will be the Alchemist who's bringing out Tanglefoot bags. And at 3rd level, the Alchemist gains the Empower Bomb feature, which allows him to multiply the damage of the bombs he creates. The multiplier increases with level until it reaches 6 times the Alchemical Bombs base damage at 19th level. So what the Alchemist is doing in 2nd edition is he's making a tiny little Ubercharger, little guy on a horse with a lance, jamming him as hard as he can into that potion, and then throwing him at your face for 1d6 plus what I imagine is your intelligence modifier. At 19th level, 1d6 plus, I'm imagining the numbers will be a little smaller. We'll say 1d6 plus 6. Maybe 7 times 6 is not going to feel good on anybody. Yeah, that is super sweet and super powerful. Of all the alchemists I've ever played, or really mostly theory crafted, I've always been the most excited about the Vivisectionist, that alchemist archetype that gets sneak attack like a rogue. And truly, I'm hoping to see the Vivisectionist return in Pathfinder 2nd edition because it's so sweet. But I definitely could see myself playing a bomber in 2nd edition because that's just so powerful. The Alchemist will not receive its mutagen until 5th level in 1st edition. Of course, the Alchemist received this at 1st. I imagine this is to take the Alchemist a little back from the Jack of all trades and force players to specialize. I also imagine even right out the gate in the playtest, there will be an Alchemist archetype a la Beast Morph, a la get your mutagen at first at the cost of bombs or formulas or something. So I'm not going to despair over this one's loss quite yet, but I will say the General Alchemist will take a little longer, it seems, to fall into that I can fill whatever role I need to niche that we have in 1st edition. So let's talk about some feats, shall we? The blog organizes the Alchemist feats into their niches. We have crafting stuff, mutagen stuff, bombing stuff. First, we're going to look at the crafting stuff. At 4th level, an alchemist in Pathfinder 2nd edition has access to either efficient alchemy or enduring alchemy. Efficient alchemy allows you to craft larger batches of alchemical stuff during downtime, and enduring alchemy extends the amount of time alchemical items that are created with quick alchemy can be used. We don't have a frame of reference for that time, but if it turns it from maybe like a round per level to a minute per level, and you need to make a bunch of bombs to blow up a wall on the fly, we've got it right there. Also, one wonders, since we're turning our bombs into Alchemist's Fire, Thunderstones, things like that, do they just stick around? Can we bank these? Can we just sit and efficient alchemy our way into 5 million rounds of Alchemist's Fire over a given very long campaign? Let's figure out immortality first. But also, how much money can we make off of that? Is the Alchemist the class we'll be playing that helped us rake in the gold? Really, I imagine a lot of classes will be filling that niche because downtime is getting overhauled. We'll just have to see. At level 6, the Alchemist gains access to the feat Powerful Alchemy, which is probably going to be a staple on all the alchemists that want to target with alchemical effects and stuff because it increases the DCs of those effects. We assume that means your bombs. We assume that means, again, like Tanglefoot bags or any other crazy stuff you might be able to whip up. Elixirs of life, like we've seen in the live play of the playtest, used on an undead. That kind of thing. If you can throw your DCs up higher, they're harder to resist, ergo, they're better. At 18th level, the Alchemist gains access to the feat Improbable Elixirs, which allows him to craft elixirs, which again are like our healing potions, and I imagine like the potion of bull strength, potion of cat's grace, blah blah blah, with the effect of magical potions. Not quite sure what that means, we'll have to see. We do know that potions are a little more powerful in 2nd edition as they will consume resonance when you drink a potion. This probably means something like a potion of heal is a lot stronger than an elixir of life or whatever it is that potion happens to be named. And it's going to take a little bit of time before the alchemist gets to the point where he can whip up potion level elixirs. But again, if we can just sit on the stuff we're making forever and then eventually sell it, I think we can figure out how to get there. If nothing else, buy a bunch of chickens, kill those chickens for experience, get to 18th level. It'll all work out. Most of the feats for the bomber style alchemist look pretty similar to what we're used to seeing in Pathfinder 1st edition. I imagine that means we'll see basically most of the same stuff as we move forward. At 4th level, an alchemist gains access to the calculated splash feat, which allows you to deal your intelligence modifier in splash damage instead of just 1 point of damage. Probably a staple for all the bomber alchemists out there, especially if the GM likes to put you up against swarms of things. But if I can get 6, 7, 8 points of splash damage down on somebody while bombing someone for 1d6 plus 6, 7, 8 times 6, so much the better. It's going to take us all the way to level 6 in 2nd edition to gain access to Precise Bomb, which is a feat that allows us to avoid our allies with splash damage when we're bombing. So it does mean we have to pick and choose our shots a little more as we go throughout the early levels of Pathfinder because we don't want to kill our friends with fire. Well, maybe Fumbus does. Though again, I imagine this is kind of a way to back off the jack of all trades and make players specialize. So I imagine the mad bomber archetype for the alchemists will get this a lot sooner, maybe even 1st or 2nd level. Also at level 6, the alchemist can grab Debilitating Bomb, which allows you to inflict conditions to the primary target of your bomb. There are greater variants of this feat at 10th and 14th level. What exactly those greater variants grab us, we're not sure. Really, we're not sure what conditions we get at level 6, but it kind of feels like a Paladin's Mercy. How we can start off by removing shaken or sickened and then eventually remove paralysis or negative levels. If the alchemist is inflicting those, it becomes even more powerful. Personally, I've GM'd for a Pathfinder 1st edition alchemist who like to inflict wisdom damage and bestow curses on all the bad guys with his bombs, and that was pretty much a one-way ticket to that bad guy is useless town population, that bad guy. And of course, there will also be feats out there for the alchemist who wants to drink something that smells funny, grow some teeth, grow some claws, look at you funny, laugh maniacally, charge at you, and eat you. Let's talk about those real quick. At 4th level, the alchemist gains access to the feral mutagen, which boosts his intimidate checks and allows him to grow a bite attack and claw attacks. And it's natural attacks that I'm looking forward to seeing probably the most. How they'll work out in Pathfinder 2nd edition, because I like having animal companions with 50,000 attacks, with a bunch of claws and bites and pounces and stuff. And for the alchemist, those natural attacks can start at level 4. At 10th level, the alchemist gains access to Stalker Mutagen, which seems super powerful to me as it grants stealth as a signature skill, meaning you are one of the best at stealth out there, and it allows you to move up to your speed while sneaking. Now remember, normally you're only moving half speed when you're sneaking. A goblin alchemist could, however, take the ancestry feat Very Sneaky, which lets them move 5 feet farther when they take an action to sneak, and might render an alchemist target flat-footed against a follow-up strike. The stealthy alchemist, again, secretly really hoping we see the vivisectionist return, because I love that class so much, probably takes Very Sneaky kind of early on and might retrain it. I don't know, it depends on how the potentially rendering your target flat-footed thing works, and probably also depends on how many rogues are in the party. However, there's case in point for what seems to be a pretty solid retrain rule. Goblin Alchemist grabs Very Sneaky at first, is, well, very sneaky, then at 10th level becomes very sneakier with the Stalker Mutagen. Now, of course, in Pathfinder 1st edition, the mutagens come with a cost. We assume it's going to be about the same in Pathfinder 2nd edition because at 18th level, the alchemist can take a feat known as Perfect Mutagen. It allows them to ignore the drawbacks when under the effects of a mutagen that particular alchemist had crafted, which makes me wonder if we can't just buy mutagens in a store and how they will affect non-alchemists who drink them. I have so many questions. Really, so too does my barbarian. I'm really hoping to see some barbarian info in the near future, mostly because I really want to know how fast my elf barbarian can move at level 1. On a final note, again, quoting Paizo, the alchemist is also a master of poisons, which he can craft for free each day, just like other alchemical items, has easy access to a number of skills, and can act as the party's trap disabler or healer if necessary. The diversity in the class allows you to pick and choose exactly how you want to manifest your particular brand of alchemical discoveries. Now, right off the bat, Paizo said that poison and stuff is going to be a lot more powerful in 2nd edition. The alchemist can craft them just like other alchemical items, and I imagine that means the alchemist can, pass them out to the rest of the party. Poison the rogue's arrows, poison the ranger's arrows, poison everyone's arrows, really. Because if we can make people waste an action on something like Sick to retch and make that fort save, stack that on with something like the slow spell, giving them all essentially one action per turn, that seems really powerful to me, and I'm definitely on board for something like that. I'm also definitely on board with Pathfinder 2nd Edition's Alchemist, but how do you guys feel about it? Did you play a lot of Alchemists in Pathfinder 1st Edition? Will Pathfinder 2nd Edition be your first ever foray into the Alchemist class? And if so, are we thinking Bomber? Are we thinking Mutagen? Are we thinking Healer? Let me know all about it in the comments below. Don't forget, guys, our Doomsday Dawn giveaway is live right now. Our Patreon is sitting at just shy of $100 a month right now. We are so close to running you and 5 of your fellow subscribers through the Pathfinder 2nd Edition playtests adventure, Doomsday Dawn, the first ever published bit of material for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. If you'd like to learn more about that giveaway, follow this card right up here. And as always, our Patreon link is in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next episode of our Pathfinder 2nd Edition playtest previews drops this Saturday.